Hello, and welcome, everyone. I am your host, Lizzie, with the LizyT show. How are you doing this beautiful afternoon? And I say beautiful because we have to endure our winters. I mean, if we don't, then who will, right? It is dark already. It's only 5:30 in the afternoon here in Canada, and the light has been gone for an hour now. So hopefully, wherever you are in this beautiful world, you are experiencing an incredible day, an incredible afternoon, and you're here to join us for a very contradictory topic. But I am so honored and so excited to be able to introduce to you an author, a believer, and a very interesting man. I'm going to give you a little bit of background because I know that some of you are probably wondering what is this all about. As you can see it on the screen, there is a lot of questions today, and there's going to be questions for a while because what's been going on with the world, with the states, it's not a joke. So let's hear it. Tony Aguilar is a host and a podcaster of the Aguilar Conversation. He is a global perspective broadcaster with the feature of interviewing guests of international affairs. So he is a fellow podcaster. He is also a commentator about political issues for the Aguilar Commentary. And during this course of 35 years of the public life as a county organizer, advocate, and preacher, and he has quoted newspapers from New York Times, New Jersey Journal, New Day, and Daily News, and much more. And here he is talking about this book that you can see it on the screen. Which is again a very controversial book, and we're going to see, is it American broken? That's a very good question, and we're going to be talking about that. So let's welcome him with to the studio with a wonderful round of applause. Hello, Tony, and welcome to Canada virtually again. We were speaking behind the scene, and you were here in Canada for 20 years ago. Seems like yesterday, and in the province of Alberta, where you were rained on. Other than that, any other incredible memories of Canada?
Well, it was actually a good time. We were there with the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. So they were having a conference about their domestic hunger grants and things of that nature. So it was quite enjoyable, except for the rain. I went there with my wife, and we had actually a very good time. The only thing we had to get used to was it getting dark so late, which kind of caught us by surprise. It was like 10 o'clock before it got dark. But we had a great time, and we met a lot of good people. And hopefully, I'll get back to Canada very soon.
Yes, hopefully that's one of the things that you could do is, I know that your books, because this is not the only one, are very interesting book, and we're going to be talking about that. I mean, I love the title, but it got me intrigued, right?
Mhm.
Is American Broken, and why did you write this book? What was it? What inspired you to say, you know what, I have the courage to talk about this topic, and I think I'm just going to do it. So I want to hear what inspired you to write this book.
Well, I think, America has a narrative that it tells about itself. Uh, John Winthrop's City on the Hill, and it likes to talk about itself in grandiose terms. Now, not all of that is wrong, and a lot of that is right and true. But there is another side to the United States. For example, this afternoon, it's all on the news that two National Guardsmen were shot at in Washington D.C. at Union Station. And what you will hear after something like that, an awful event like that, is this is not who we are, this is not American, so forth and so on. And I beg to differ. That is who we are. It's not all of who we are, but it is a part of the American DNA. And so I wanted to write a book that really talked about how, while we may have done great things, we also have an underbelly. We also have a side that we don't really like to talk about. And the other thing that got me to write the book was an article that I read in the New York Times which stated it asked the question, why is Joe Biden struggling? This is before he dropped out of the race. And they gave the answer as because America is broken. And my response to that is maybe not. Maybe this is simply who we are. And that with all the good stuff, there is also the bad stuff. So I wanted to dig into that from the perspective of immigration, of race, of the military, of economics, and a whole several other issues as well. So I wanted to really dig into that.
It's a very good question. Absolutely. I mean, the name itself, is it broken? And we go through things like that in Canada with immigration. I mean, as you know, Canada has, especially the eastern provinces, the capitals, the Torontos and the Vancouvers of Canada has been built in immigration. And we have encountered a lot of difficulties, not as much as the US, but it has been digging into an economy, culture that they don't get along, things that the people, instead of assimilating to the Canadian culture, they want to keep their own culture without leaving whatever the left behind or whatever country they came from. They don't want to assimilate. They want to keep the same thing and impose some of those rules or some of those things into Canada, which I personally, and again, that's just my personal opinion, I don't agree with. If you come to Canada, you have to try to assimilate, not get into obviously the bad stuff, but things that are important to our culture. So I assume that this is the same thing that has been going on in the States. Um, is America divided as people seem to think? Because I know we experience, as I was saying earlier with Canada, we have becoming a lot divided. Yes, let's bring immigration as much as possible. Now let's continue working with the people that we have here. What is the view in the States?
It really depends on what issue you're talking about, because you hear a lot about the United States has never been this divided. Well, we have the Civil War, and we were quite divided during that time. We were also divided during World War One and also World War Two, up until the time we entered World War Two. So there have been times that America has been as divided as it is now. I think the difference is that we did not have national leadership that took advantage of that division. While you did have presidents who try to take advantage of the differences, it didn't go to the extent that it is now. And I think that's one of the problems, plus social media and all of that, where, ever since CNN became 24/7, you have this breakdown of media where now media has to get its own audience and you have to appeal to an audience. There was a time when, the nightly news is only 15 minutes long in the United
Yeah.
States. And then it became, as I said, CNN became 24/7. And I write about this in the book. And so everyone has to go after their own audience. And so you have this segmentation. And so now everyone seeks their opinion and who's the source of their opinion. And that's been a problem. So we have disinformation going on, and
Yes.
so people don't believe anything. A lot of people don't believe anything. And so the question is, can you get back to a time when you at least could agree on what the facts are, as opposed to if it's not what I think, then it's wrong. And I think that's been a problem for the United States as well. Now, the pendulum will swing, and I believe that. But right now, we're in that situation in which there's just too much disinformation. There's too many people trying to take advantage of that disinformation and they use it to their own benefit.
Yes, absolutely. And is exactly what you said, is really difficult to believe what is going on, what is real
Mhm.
and what is AI, what real news are and what's the AI. And one of the things that I don't like to do is use our regular media, our regular television, because you don't, it's very biased.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of digging that you need to do when you own in order to find out what is real and what is not. You talked
True.
about you talked about the church, and you're saying that how has the church been playing the role? When you're talking about the church, do you think that the church needs to be involved in politics?
Well, to a degree, it already is. If you look at
Hmm.
it, depending upon if you're talking about mainline denominations, or if you're talking, let's say, the evangelical segment of the church community. But if you look at what, in terms of what the United States is going through now, I would say the mainline denominational church has been more attuned to what's going on. Evangelical church seems to be taking on a different take in terms of what's going on in America. So there's this apocalyptic notion, there's this notion of dominionism, Seven Mountains Mandate, and all of that, which for many people is not the true gospel. So I think, the mainline church, when you look at people like Bishop William Barber, certainly Bishop Marianne Buddy from the Episcopal Church, even Pope Leo, who comes from Chicago, has weighed in terms of what's going on, particularly as it pertains to immigration. So I think the church, depending upon which church you're talking about, uh, will determine, will give you an idea of where the church actually is. My take, I tend to be on the side, at least in this instance, of the mainline denominational churches. I think, we would tend to not dismiss dominionism or Seven Mountains Mandate, but I'm not sure the United States needs a Christian form of Sharia law.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Absolutely. So, on all of this, do you what do you think the future for the United States is? Is there any future? Do we have any hope? Can we? I assume that you are optimistic that there is way of fixing what is broken. No pun intended.
I think one of the things that, if we look at history, that countries go through a pendulum swing. And so if you look at Poland, for example, Poland went way to the right, then it came back to the middle. The Netherlands, they were going to the right, but they rejected Gert Wilders and his anti-immigration party. Even in Italy, if you look at Giorgia Meloni, who many thought she was going to be an extremist, and some may argue that she is in certain instances, but by and large, she has ruled from a centrist position. So I think countries go through pendulum swings. Even, you take London, for example, England, for example, they were conservative for a long time, and now that they've swung back towards Labour, they may swing back towards the Tories again. We'll see how that's going to go. So it's always a pendulum swing. Now, what I do worry about are nations such as Hungary, Turkey, where they have gone authoritarian and they have not swung back. And so there is a danger of that. And I think we do need to wrestle with that because, for example, one of JD Vance's, the Vice President of the United States, one of his advisors or close contacts is Curtis Yarvin. And Curtis Yarvin believes that democracy has failed and that he is in favor of a dictatorship. Now, the problem I have with that is that he has the ear of the vice president, who may be the nominee for the Republican Party in 2028. So I'm cautiously hopeful. I'm not going to say I'm optimistic. I think that's too rosy a term, but I am hopeful that we will see a pendulum swing. And I do think I think Canada hopes that we will go through a pendulum swing as well.
Yes, I'm hopeful as well. I don't want to forget, Tony, that for people that wants to get your book, because I mean, this is a very interesting topic. It's very a topic that you hit it right on the nail. It needs to be taught. It needs to be people need to be educated. They need to go to the right sources and find out for their own. So where can people get your book?
You can get it in paperback through Amazon, and if they want to get it online, they can go to Barnes and Noble.
Beautiful, beautiful. So We talked a little bit about what you'd want to accomplish, but what is the main purpose of the book? How obviously is education? How obviously is to be able to have people more not reaching out to sources that are not real, but what is the main purpose? What do you want to accomplish with this book? What do you want the audience to get out of this?
My hope is that the audience, or the listening audience, would get more involved in the civic culture of the nation. If you go back to 2024, about 14, 15 million people stayed home from the polls. And a lot of that is due to the belief that nothing ever changes, voting doesn't matter, so forth and so on down the line. But I do like to remind people that if you go back to 2016, when people also stayed home, well, you gave the incoming administration an opportunity to appoint three Supreme Court justices. And so Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch come in, and they essentially join with John Roberts and some of the other conservative Supreme Court judge, and they overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, some people would agree with that, some people would not, but it goes to show that the vote does matter. And then you had a situation in which the Supreme Court has basically gutted the Civil Rights Act the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And so they are now going to entertain hearing another case, Louisiana Calais, which would obliterate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So voting does make a difference. So I hope it lets people know that being involved is important. Change may not come quick. It took 9 years to really, go from, what Rosa Parks did during the civil rights movement to a complete victory to get the voting rights bill. So it is important for people to be involved because to not be involved would suggest that you're going to let other people control what you do. Now, the other side of that is we're not the only ones in the room. And the Constitution of the United States does not guarantee a specific outcome. It only guarantees a particular process, but you have to be in the process in order to affect the process. And I'm reminded of Robert Kennedy Sr., who said, progress is a nice word, but, motivation, but you have to be involved for it to happen. But change does have its enemies. So I hope people get involved as a result of reading the book. Or even if they don't read the book, I hope they get involved anyway.
One of the things that I love about what you said is about the involvement because even myself, just having a conversation with someone and having those same thoughts, the same comment, well, I shouldn't vote because it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't contribute to anything. I completely disagree. If you do not get involved, absolutely nothing will happen. If
Mhm.
you don't cast your vote, absolutely nothing is going to happen. Getting involved and getting educated, reading a book like yours, and being part of the real group and having your thoughts, having your ballot thrown out, it makes a huge difference. And I agree with you 100% on that. Guys, I don't want to forget, I know time's just going by quickly here and there's a lot of questions, but remember, we are live. And if you would like to follow us on any of those social medias in front of you, you could connect with us and you can also connect with Tony as well. For the book, I don't want to forget to share where you can find it. The book is on Amazon, is right here, as you can see it on the screen. You can get yourself a copy. This is a great, great opportunity to have. I don't know. The holidays are coming. Christmas is coming. If you know someone that is interested, could be a great gift. It's right here on the screen as well as you can see it, and there will be a link on my website or also on my YouTube channel. This has been great. Um, So, what is, I mean, you've been writing several books. I can see your little repertoire in, little no, 4 books and counting on your social media and also on Amazon. Um, I mean, you get inspiration from all different walks of life and all different venue. But any other book on the way?
Well, I have another book coming out, and I'm
I
in the
figured.
process of writing it now, and it's called "How Do You Know God Talked to You?" And so we're going to dig a little deep into that. As you said at the beginning of the show, I am a believer, but at times I do, when I hear people say, God talked to me and this, that, and the other, and we're going to dig into that. How do you know that God talked to you?
I love that conversation, and some of you know it too, which I'm not also ashamed to say it. I am also a believer. And one of the things that I love, and we do have a lot of books, as you can see behind me, there's so many books from my authors gifting to you, or me going on Amazon and purchase them myself because I'm so interested. So yeah, that's one of the greatest topics of my show. It is talks about Christianity, a believer, testimonies, and the list goes on. So love it, love it. The link is right here, everyone, and the pictures, just in case you are missing the spelling, is America Broken. This is the author, Tony Aguilar. He also is a broadcaster himself, and he does commentary. And my goodness, you have a big, big plethora. It looks like you do not stop working. Um, very,
We
very
try.
busy, very busy. Well, that's what the life of a person that is always on the go and always busy, right? And so,
As you
what
would know,
should
of
be
course.
what should be any less? Um, One thing that I would like to leave with you, and I always ask this question to all of my guests, is um, for somebody who's looking at you and saying, "Well, brother Tony has 4 books. Has been writing for a while. I do have the inspiration, but I don't know what it takes." Love to hear your words of wisdom to someone that is listening, and perhaps here to hear your wisdom words.
Well, speaking for myself, I can say if you are looking to write a book, one of the things to do is to write down some thoughts about, where you want it to go. The other side of it is not to be afraid to change your mind if the situation warrants it upon your research, about a situation or about a person. The other thing is that I am not what you would call a linear writer. In other words, one chapter does not follow the other. I may start with chapter one, and then all of a sudden I'm on chapter five, and then I'll come back to chapter two. So I think you have to find what your own particular style is in writing and go from there. But I think the best way to write is to start with notes. Start with, what you want to say in terms of chapters, in terms of, summarizing what you want to talk about, and then simply go from there. But the biggest thing is be open to changing your mind about a particular topic when you've done the research. And obviously, I'm talking about a nonfiction now. So, because sometimes you may find you may have a particular view, and upon doing research, you may totally shift your view, and that's okay. And the other way is don't think you have to write like somebody else. Somebody may be a linear writer, which I am not. You may be a nonlinear writer, which I am. And so you have to find your own style, and which will be much more successful than trying to copy somebody else.
I've heard many comments and many words of wisdom, and I love yours because the fact, and I've heard take notes, do journaling, all that good stuff. But one of the things that I love about what you said is even if you would like to change your mind on what you're starting on, that thing is grandiose, because that's really how I am. All of a sudden, I'm on the middle of it, and I realize, this is not what I wanted to do. I'm changing my mind, going in a different route, and it works. And there's no shame on that. I love their words of wisdom. I love that advice, because somebody is starting a journaling, starting taking notes, starting doing something, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of it, and this is not what you thought it would be, and all of a sudden it's a completely different book. But that's the book that you need to write. Love it. I love it. Everyone, we're here right now we still have a couple of minutes with Tony, and he is the author of this incredible book, as you can see it on the screen right now. Is American Broken? I think that the holidays is coming, Christmas is coming, and this is a great gift. Get involved by buying the book, get involved by studying, doing some research, get involved by doing all the things that you need. And you can go back and say, well, I didn't do my research. Don't just talk about nonsense if you haven't studied, if you haven't given your self a chance to do the research. And this is a great book to give you the research that you need to get involved. Any last word, Tony?
Yeah, I think in terms of, change is inevitable. Things are going to change, but change does not always go the way you want it to go. But if you're not in it, then it definitely will not go the way you want to go. And I think one of the things I pointed in the book, we are constantly at 60% of the voting public showing up at the polls. And we should never be proud of that fact. And we should be a country that is up in the 90% percentile in terms of participation, particularly when it comes to national elections. So what I would say to folk is, I understand people are busy. I understand that things don't always work out the way you want to, but you need to be involved because there's too many people that came before you that shed blood, sweat, and tears that we need to honor. Second, we need to always make sure that if someone has our agenda at heart, that we support that person, or we get involved to protect what we've already won, or we get involved to prevent something bad from happening. And so those are the four reasons I think we need to vote and to be engaged in the political process. So again, my message is get engaged and stay involved, not only on the national level, but on the local level as well. And the last thing I would say is stop looking for charismatic leaders. And the notion
Mhm.
that we hear this a lot in the United States. This person doesn't move me. They don't excite me. And my response is, who cares? You're not going to a concert. This is about civic culture, and we just need someone who's competent to take the reins of the administration, of the city, of the state, of the local county, or whatever. So, and so don't look for people who are charismatic. Look for people who are competent and who support your agenda.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, thank you, Tony, for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your book with us, sharing your knowledge, your expertise, and recommending people to get involved and to be participant. This is a great book. You should get it. It is on Amazon, as you can see it on the screen. Great gift for Christmas right now. And if you have any question, you can always reach out to him. You can reach out to him, and I can pass that information. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Okay, give me 1 second, Tony. Are you still
Mhm.
there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great.